to do okay, and running about the same amount there is what you're running over there now. But yeah, I know the transformers are harder than the system next to tubes, I guess there, Roger.
Yeah, they are. They're very expensive. I mean, luckily we've got a guy in York, he's a ham guy, and he does a lot of electronical work, so I took the amplifier to him, and he had the transformer rewound for me, refitted it up, and did some work on it for me. But it's a very old amplifier I've got. It's a very old amplifier I've got. It was made in 1968. But it works really well. Obviously these old ham amplifiers are much better than the CB amplifiers because they're all filtered, so I don't really give much interference out. And I think at the moment we're doing about 1,000 whiskies, running about 75 watts into the amplifier, so it's running about 1,000, I think. Back to you.
Roger, Keith. Yeah, it's about the same thing I'm doing. I'm running, I think about 60 watts in, and we're getting pretty close to 1,000 out, and we load the radio up full smoke into it there. It'll click out about 11 on the used tubes, but any more than that, the amp kind of gets into saturation mode. I try to keep it back down to that point of it there where it runs really clean. We got one of the old Heathkit SP220s that was made in, well, I should say built in 71. It was the original build on it here. And man, this thing was in rough shape when I got it, but got everything cleaned up, working good and looking good in it now, so hopefully it'll last us a few years anyway. Probably outlast me now, Keith.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping this one lasts me. I mean, there's loads of newer amplifiers out, but you know, because I've spent so much money on this one, there's no point in buying anything else. I've just actually turned it up there to its limit. It's doing about 1,200 whiskies there out the amplifier. My 3-element beam will probably melt with all this power, but it's it's certainly doing its job. Back to you.
Being short, they take quite a load as long as I don't know what type of matching system's on that, if it's a gamma or beta, but those beams are a pretty tough old beam. What make amplifier is it?
The amplifier is called a KW1000, but I mean, it's had recent valves in it, I believe, so we've had it on a meter, and it was peaking about 750 watts FM, so obviously you'll double that up to SSB, so it's certainly doing some serious power on the KV there. It's doing over 2.5 kV, so it's certainly working very, very well since I've had it repaired. Back to you.
Roger. Does that use a single big tube, or is it a pair of tubes, or what?
Yeah, no, it's a pair of tubes. I think, from what I can remember, the tubes are maybe 519s, 2 519 tubes, I do believe, from what I can remember. Back to you.
Oh, there you go. Well, I'm sure it'll last you a long time. I can tell by the sound of your station, Keith, that you run everything properly and nice and clean, so it should last you a good long period of time. You won't have to worry about getting another one.
Well, I certainly hope so, because of all the money I've spent on it. I mean, you know, all the money you spend on this equipment, if you want the right equipment and you want to sound decent on the output there, there's no point in getting inferior equipment. You might as well buy the best, obviously, what you can afford. But I like the Heil microphones, the Behringer mixer. I love Kenwood radios. I think they're absolutely outstanding. I had one I had a couple maybe 25 years ago when I was on the radio many years ago, but this 590 with the DSP and everything is just an absolute incredible radio on its transmit and receive there. Back to you.
Yeah, Roger. Now, once you get used to a radio with DSP, and it's hard to go back to something that doesn't have it, and it does such a fantastic job on everything with the processing. I know on this, we're running the Yaesu Fox Data 1000 ampere, and it's my first go with running with a processor in it like that, a microprocessor in it, and I couldn't go back the other way with one without, I don't think. I mean, I've got a couple old rigs yet, the old style radios. I got an old 57 Collins yet here. And talk about an old girl. We got 2 of those and a couple of them for parts that we picked up. And talk about going back in the old days. It's some old radios, but they were pretty good old rigs in the days. But you know, there goes, you having to retune every 100 kcs, and those things had 24 tunes in them. That's just in the radio. And, quite a difference to get a nice modern rig that everything is just solid state on it. I know we went from that to an Icon 735. That was back in I think 93 is when I bought that. And I thought that was quite the cat's me out. But that thing again is ancient compared to this one, and this ace is 12 years old, so they keep advancing them.
Yeah, they certainly do. Their technology moves on. I mean, I think I've got about must have 20 radios here. I've got quite an old collection of radios. You know, the old Cobra 148 GTL DX. I don't know if you guys had them over in the States there, the DX, but they're a fantastic radio. I've got a couple of them. But I'm a bit of a collector of radios. If I can find them in perfect condition, in all their original boxes, I try and hold on to them. At one of my other houses, I have a aerial called Avanti Sigma 4, which is Avanti went bust many years ago, but the Sigma 4 has been up at my other property for about 25 years. But a fantastic aerial. They're just not made like that anymore. Back to you.
Roger. Stereo is done a copycat of that. I don't know how well that holds up against the original Vonnie signal for Sigma 4. I heard people say they're almost as good, but not quite. Yeah, you're right. The Vonnie made some great antennas. I know. Well, this old moonraker I'm talking on is a good 35 years old. It's one of the old original Vonnie moonrakers, and I picked that up here. It's my original Vonnie moonraker. 3 years, got missing pieces of bronze right into the back wire on it and bent it up, and we had it up and down a dozen times, revamping it, and it got pretty bent up the last time we had it in storage. We got out of it for about 17 years, and I found this one used and had enough parts there to redo it, and it looks like brand new. Everything's nice and straight and working like $1 million. So Vonnie makes some good antennas through the years.
Yeah, they certainly do. There's no doubt about that. I mean, like I say, my Sigma 4 is it's been up there, must be 25 years, and before that it's an old antenna, but it's still straight, and the way they were made many years ago, the thickness of the gauge aluminium just puts antennas these days to shame. But I know what you mean about the copy, Stereo Vector 4000. It's a copy of the Sigma 4, but the quality of it is just nothing to the original Avanti. Like I say, it's at my other house. I should really take it down, and I will one day. I'll take it down one day and replace, clean all the sections and replace the clips and everything, because it's something which is just a part of my radio equipment, and I would never ever want to sell it. I have different antennas up these days. I have a Stereo Gain Master, and that's a vertical. That's up on a 40-foot retractable mast. But if you drop me an email, I'll show you some pictures of the equipment anyway. And like I say, I've got the 3-element Yagi, which it's only about 25 feet in the air, but I've just bought a Yaesu rotator for it, so I have to take that down in the next couple of weeks, put the new rotator up and put it back up there. But I usually always work flat side now. It's hardly ever where I put the Gain Master on there. Back to you.
Roger. Yeah, I know those Gain Masters are hard to come by, and every once in a while you'll see one come up on eBay and they're gone instantly the minute they hit. So that antenna is still very high demand. And the only stereo antenna I've really had was I got one of their standby antenna, one of their Starduster knockoffs, which I'll tell you what, Stereo did a good job on that one. That was better built than the original Stardusters were. And what they've done on the extrusion on the aluminum on that's like a thin deal compared to the original antenna specialist one. And up is a lot better made than what the originals were. But we bought it for a standby stick, and it works well as far as for receive on all the other bands. You don't have to string a bunch of wires up and stuff for her. Hey, the other bands would just leave that one plugged in. You don't have to disconnect the shield on the coax or anything. And it does a pretty good job for a standby 11 and just for receive on the other band. So I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, well, many years ago, when I was young, I'm saying many years ago, I made myself sound about 85 years old there. I'm actually 43. But when I first came on the radio, I was about 13 or 14 years old, and I actually bought an original Starduster off my friend. But to be honest, I never got to use it. I used, back then, let me think what I used. I think it was I had a Sigma 4 then, but that was obviously back in my youth. I put that on my mum and dad's chimney stack and on a 10-foot pole, but I think Sigma 4s are about 27 foot long, so it was one hell of a sized antenna on the chimney stack. Luckily my mum had gone to work, so while she was at work we got on the